the theme or the house for relationships is usually in the 7th house. So the 7th house represents committed relationships. It can be the relationship with yourself, work, romantic, whatever it is, as long as it is a relationship.
So the other misconception has been relying on astrology vis-a-vis relying on God and just prayers. Why can't I just do that?
But when someone says your sun, it means what is your core self? What is your ego? What is your identity?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear viewers and listeners. Welcome to yet another episode of Beauty podcast with me, Miriam Rose. Today I'm joined by the lovely Ruby the Astrologer, and I will allow her to introduce herself and we'll delve right into astrology. I've really wanted to talk about this, so thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Such a lovely invite from you. My name is Ruby the Astrologer. So I am an evolutionary astrologer and I'm a lifelong student rather just of astrology. And I've been doing so for the past, I'd say 8 to 10 years of my so far. And yeah, thank you. And I have, over the years, I've just continued learning astrology and practicing it and also applying it in my life. And my approach as an evolutionary astrologer is blending my intuition and my knowledge about the human life or the human sciences. So that is psychology, sociology, African spirituality, archaeology, to make sense of what it is to be here in a cosmological level. And through that, I'm able to guide people through their spiritual journey, but from an astrological way, whereby I believe whatever happens around us, as above, so below, has an influence on the human experience. Yes.
Interesting. Thank you. That's beautiful. Other than being an astrologer, before we find out how you even went into astrology and what it is, who else is Ruby?
So Ruby wears many hats, but mostly on the creative side. I am a creative strategist. I also dabble into fashion once in a while. And I was also a trained psychologist for a while. And then I slowly found my way back to my passion, which is astrology. Yes.
How was it a passion before? How did you know about it?
For me, my first introduction to astrology came from my undergraduate, which was psychology. And I remember we were studying on the history of psychology. And they were talking about the philosophies of the Greeks at that time. They were talking about Socrates, Plato, and whatnot. And I happened to stumble upon the word astrology in my textbook. And I was like, this is interesting. This is not something you usually find every now and then. And at that particular point, they were talking about astrology as a pseudoscience, of which kind of intrigued my mind at that time, but I didn't pay much attention to it.
Yeah.
And then as I was continuing with my undergraduate, and we studied more on Carl Jung. Carl Jung is one of the most renowned psychologists there. He created the discipline known as humanistic astrology, not humanistic astrology, but humanistic psychology, where he understood that the human in itself, or humans in themselves, are very complex. They have layers to them that can either be abstract or can be scientific. So from his study, aside from him being a psychologist, he also studied astrology, and he understood that beyond what we know mentally or subconsciously, there are some things that are far beyond our interpretation as human beings that still influence our experiences. And from there, I continued learning his disciplines, understanding where he comes from, and I combined the two. And I think from there now, that is where I started delving more into astrology and understanding myself. Because for me, when I started now learning it, it was more from a self-awareness tool. Who is Ruby? Why is Ruby the way she is, rather? Or what is more there to Ruby? Yes.
What did you find out?
I found out that Ruby is quite a passionate individual. She's very creative, hence my passions on the creative side. Very intuitive, very spiritual, and someone who yearns to teach or to share the knowledge that she has. Yes.
And I want you to connect that into how the planets and the influence of planets, or just maybe define astrology and show us the connection between how astrology brought you to that realization of yourself.
So the connection between the two, let me start with the definition of astrology. So astrology is the study of celestial bodies and the influence it has on the human experience. So as we all know, we all went to, most of us, or if not all of us, went to school, and there was a certain song we used to sing to remember the planets. My very educated mother just shown us 9 planets. And with the 9 planets that are there, they're not just there for decoration. That's what I usually say. But them being placed there, they have a certain significance that even our ancestors understood from it. The planets themselves, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, all have unique qualities to them. And when it comes to astrology, delving more into it, from the ancient philosophies, the planets themselves represented a certain level of, not even a certain, they represented personalities that, or essence, that influenced the life on the human race or on Earth. So for example, we'll start with the first one. Mercury in itself is the closest planet to the sun. Mercury in itself represents the planet of communication. If you have certain Mercury placements in your chart, you're more likely to be more mercurial. And that's what we mean by that is that you'll be more likely to delve more into things that are more of the communicative side. You'll be more inquisitive, you'll be more sociable and talkative, let me just say. Moving down the line, Venus, I think most of the people are familiar with the Venetian nature of the planet. Planet of love and beauty, aesthetics, the good things in life. Venus in itself, same with Mercury. If you have more Venetian placements in your chart, you're more likely to gravitate towards the beauty of life. Yes. And going down the line, can we go down the line, all of it?
Yeah.
Let's say, let's use Jupiter, for example. Jupiter, as it is that big, it's not just for show. Jupiter in itself represents the grandiosity of life, or represents things that are big and are expandable. And Jupiter in itself, when you have a lot of Jupiter placements in your chart again, or you're more Jupiterian in your chart, you're more likely to have an outward view of life being optimistic. You'd want to see the bigger picture of it. Yeah. Let's take the opposite of Jupiter, which is like Saturn. Saturn in itself is a very disciplined, structured, responsible planet that requires you to be, by the book, doing the responsible things, ticking off what you're supposed to do, etc., etc. So with each of the 9 planets, including the sun, so in astrology, we also include the luminaries, that is what we call them, the sun and the moon. And with each of those planets now influence what we call the zodiac signs, the 12 zodiac signs that we know right now. Yes.
Okay. So I have 2 questions before I talk of the zodiac.
Yes.
I'm wondering if someone has strong Saturn placements, which we'll talk about placements a bit later, how will that reconcile? I'm imagining a boss who has strong Saturn placements, and another maybe junior or a supervisor or someone below them who doesn't. And then they go for a team building. How many team buildings will it take for this junior to ever become to the standard, to get to the standard of this boss who has, I feel like, isn't that just chaos?
I wouldn't say it's chaos. I think even with the boss in the picture, they have their strengths and weaknesses. In this case, them having a strong Saturnian placement means that they will show up as a more of a leader, a more structured leader, a more responsible leader, a more, by the book, this is what is supposed to be done. But probably there are areas in his chart or her chart that they would require to be more open-minded, that probably, the junior or the subordinate is capable of doing. So in that case, understanding the full chart, because that's not just what represents the boss. There are other aspects within the boss that probably he or she doesn't know that they need to explore. And same case to the intern or whatever the subordinate, that they also need to explore so that they can come to more or less an agreement and an alignment that works for the both of them.
Oh, okay.
Which also now transcends to what we call career astrology, that other people explore, as just you have said, because you might come to an astrologer and you're like, I want to change up my career, but I don't know what exactly to do. That's where we're able to navigate and tell you that this is what you're supposed to work on, and this is the path you're more likely to at least stretch a bit about yourself so that you see where you can go with it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's something we're going to talk about, the uses. So can someone take it too far? Can someone take these qualities too far? And is that where guidance from someone like you comes in? So like my boss, example, they take their Saturn. Now instead of just being boss and leader, like they become authoritarian.
Yes. I think with any placement or with any energy, any kind of energy that is too concentrated, what we call stelliums. So if an energy is concentrated, meaning you have a lot of Capricorn placements, or you have a lot of, Cancer placements, or whatever kind of placements that you have within your chart, you're more likely to show up within that energy more than anything else, to a point that it can be detrimental, but it can also be powerful, depending on how you work around your chart. So depending on, first of all, are you aware that you show up in a certain way too much that is detrimental to your existence? Or if that energy, you're able to concentrate it in a way that you also like dish it out to other areas of your chart. That is also good for you, then you found a balance, because you can't ignore it's part of you. Yes.
Is that where you come in for guidance? Like how will someone know how to balance?
So as an evolutionary astrologer, I come in with a map of, we call it a birth chart. So a birth chart is a map of your soul, or a snapshot of your soul when you were born. Take it as you being taken a picture right now and someone explaining parts of yourself, that this is what entails, this is what it entails. As an evolutionary astrologer, I come in mapping your soul and telling you that, I know you have these placements, but it's not a death sentence. There's strength in the weaknesses that you have if you become self-aware and understand that this is what you need to work on, and they can guide you through that, either in a small way or bits by bits, or just in one-off. If you end up coming to me and just, you want to talk about career and you feel like you'll be content with that, well and good. But if at all you feel like it's a continuous process, which is what I work on, well and good. I come in as a guide, or like just the way you would go to a therapist or maybe your spiritual coach. It's not a one-off thing, I believe. It's a continual process. Yes.
I like how you call me spiritual coach. That's the second time you've
Thank
said
you.
it. I'm going to pick up on that. Give us other practical examples of that. You've mentioned career. Where else can conventional people who think this is just zodiacs at the back of a newspaper woo-woo use
Actually,
use
it's
in their
horoscopes.
lives? Okay.
Actually, what people usually see on the newspapers or magazines are horoscopes. And I get where the pop astrology comes from, because people think that's just the whole of what astrology is.
Okay.
Horoscopes, if I may, is just it's a summary of what collectively a certain zodiac sign is not even suffering, it's not going through, but how, for example, if I was a Cancer and you are a Cancer, we would experience it in a different way, because there are certain things within us that are different. Yeah. So it's like a weather forecast. If they say Nairobi is raining, haimaanishi Nairobi yote inanyesha, inamaanisha kwingine, other places it will rain heavily, others they'll just have like light showers.
Yeah.
So that is what most people have an understanding of what astrology is. But astrology in itself is more in-depth. It requires a lot of, calculations. For example, it requires you learning about your big three, what we call your sun, how you show up, your identity, your ego, your moon, your emotional well-being, or your emotional needs, rather, and your rising, how you actually show up, or your outer perspective about life, how others perceive you without even you realizing. So it's more in-depth. Yes.
So go to the practical uses of
So,
just my
yes.
conventional people.
So to the practical use, one example we gave is the career.
Yes.
So from the example you've given, a boss has come in and they have this just intern or subordinate or employee that they really don't get to have that
Along
level
with.
of chemistry, but they know they can work well, but probably there are areas that they need to work on. Maybe it could be their communication style, probably the way the boss communicates is different from the way the employee would perceive it. So if the boss is able to understand, let's say it's not a joint consultation, I would tell the boss, I know you come out talking about you when you communicate with other people, it's more cutthroat, or it's more, direct to the point. But your subordinates might feel like you're undermining them or intimidating them. What if you use this approach to see if you can find a middle ground with them? That is one example. Another example within the career would be, probably you've reached a point where, things are not working out, or you feel like you're lost, or you find yourself that maybe you went to school and for the sake of saying you're a doctor, for example, or a lawyer, but your passions have always taken you to maybe the creative side. Maybe you want to sing.
Guilty.
You see? So you find yourself, and you come in and you're like, I don't know why I'm gravitating more towards this, but I feel like, can you please guide me on this? And I would probably tell you, you have strong placements, maybe in the fifth house, which is the house of creativity, for example, in Leo. And if you activate that, or if you believe that you can activate that, you'd have a stronger chance of happiness, which is subjective, than you continuing the path that you're in. Yes. Another example would be in your mental health. Of course, as with everyone, we have the things we we go through, or even suffer from.
Yeah.
And the way we perceive the things that we go through emotionally are different. Some of us are more expressive. Others, it will take time. Others would juggle between, having things to do with, do I do something about it, or do I shelve them down? Now, me being an evolutionary astrologer, but also being a psychologist, I will mesh the two, because I have my background in psychology. I've done therapy before, but I will also add in the intuitive guidance of astrology to help you with whatever that you're doing. Yes. The major one that most of us get is on the relationship, mostly relationship with ourselves. Because when you go to an astrologer, the one thing that they will tell you is, before you can understand the world outside, you have to understand the self. And that's why the birth chart is there. I can't go and do a birth chart on you if I don't understand myself, because I would be doing a disservice to myself. So whether it's the relationship you were working on with your partner, first show up for yourself. Maybe there are parts of yourself that you need to work on, that you need to see where you need to improve on, or maybe even the attachment styles can be seen within your chart.
Say more about that. Say more, a bit more about relationships.
So within astrology, there are various themes within the chart, the birth chart. The birth chart in itself has 12 themes, from theme 1, which is house 1, to theme 12, which is house 12. The theme or the house for relationships is usually in the 7th house. So the 7th house represents committed relationships. It can be the relationship with yourself, work, romantic, whatever it is, as long as it is a relationship. The kind of placements that you have within there or lack thereof, because if you've ever seen an atypical birth chart, it's not necessarily those lines themselves that hit every house, as I've said, or every theme. So you might find that probably you have an empty house. That means that there are no planets there. It's just the sign. Yes? So depending on the planets that you have there, it can show up as you probably struggling with, having relationships. A good example to use would be you having a Saturn.
Yeah, I thought so.
If you have, yes, you suspect yours is there?
No, I saw that coming. No.
Okay.
I told you Saturn for me is,
Uh-huh.
it has a bad, it's
Uh-huh.
by bad books, but
Uh-huh.
I saw that coming. Relationships, if you're struggling, Saturn, then you said it.
Yes. You're along that path. So let
God.
me explain. No, I'm not. I'm explaining further on that. Sasa.
We will switch my
Usishtuke.
chart.
Usishtuke sana.
Sawa.
So, again with astrology now, the planets themselves, with the type of energy they have, they can show up as happy, or they can show up as either melancholic or choleric.
Wow.
So happy, of course, with the word itself, happy. Melancholic, it means they tend to move more towards just being like, I'm sad, I'm there. And then choleric is that they have that fierce energy within them. So back to the question of the seventh house now. If you have Saturn, for example, which is Saturn as a planet is, even from the personality itself, disciplined, structured, stoic, to the books.
Yeah.
No emotions whatsoever. If you're to place it in a house where relationships are supposed to thrive, you would look at relationships in a very structured way that, if things are not working as per the book, it would be very detrimental for you. Or it could mean that the relationships you have in general tend to need more work than the average person. So whether it is a relationship, you would have to work so hard towards finding, maybe, I don't want to use the word perfect match or anything, but working more towards finding a relationship that is worthwhile.
And that would even work for work. I'm thinking of a salesperson.
Yes.
Making sales
Yes.
might be harder for them
Yes.
than another.
Yes. But the thing is, it's not like a death sentence per se. It just means you have to work twice as hard as someone who has Jupiter, because Jupiter as a planet is just a planet of like, hey, I'll just give you whatever you want.
For sure.
You can have all the fun you want, as opposed to someone who has Jupiter in the seventh house. Their relationships will show up abundantly, as opposed to someone who has Saturnian energy in the seventh house.
Makes sense.
Yes.
That's very clear. And then decision making?
Yes, decision making just in general. It can be any point of your life. It could be you want to know more about yourself. Maybe you want to know the next steps of probably even something like your spirituality, and you're not really sure which path to take, for example, and you're like, sorry, I feel like, this and this is happening to me, but I need some level of guidance from whatever it is that I'm going through. What can you suggest as an astrologer? I will look at your chart, mostly when it comes to decision making, because it's the self. We look at the first house. We look at the 10th house. The 10th house represents your public image, your career, your legacy. I would also look at the relationships, because in as much as we make the decisions we make for ourselves, there's an influence of the relationships that we have. Yes. So the first, the fourth, the seventh, and the 10th.
What does the first and the fourth have?
So the first house is the house of self, your identity. One, Mimi, the identity, your core, your libido. Let me just say, the libido for life. The fourth house represents roots, ancestry, lineage. And the reason why they are placed like that, just to explain a little bit, it's the houses are named after, now, for example, Aries. Aries represents house number 1, because from the type of astrology that I practice, house number 1, the season starts from Aries and then moves down the line from Aries, number 1, Taurus, number 2, Gemini, number 3, Cancer number 4. So even with the houses themselves, we have the planets here. The planets are the person. The houses don't change per se. Hata ikue ya mabati ya matope unless you break it down. But in astrology, they tend to remain the same. So the themes are the same. Whatever planet comes in there is what might change the vibe of the room. Let me just say.
Makes sense. Like if Saturn came to like the example you gave of the
Yes.
7th house, it will affect the things in the 7th house.
Yes.
But the 7th house is just the 7th house.
Yes,
Makes
the
sense.
7th house is just the 7th house. So I would look at the house of self, which is house number 1. I would look at house number 4, which is your ancestry, your legacy. How were you necessarily brought up? What kind of environment were you brought up in? Because that is house number 4, house ruled by Cancer. The 7th house, the relationships you have. And then the 10th house is now your public image, your legacy, what people will know you for or you will be known for. So based on now you wanting to make the best decisions for yourself, that is where you'll move into. I will look into so that I can help you navigate the best.
So I'm wondering, there are people who are making, so you're saying there are people who, when they don't have this information, are making decisions, wrong decisions, and going out in life struggling and not understanding why they are mismatched with life. And
more or less, because astrology in itself is a self-awareness tool. It's not a prediction tool. What it does, it mirrors back to you what you essentially are, and then from there you can decide. You and I can sit here and I can tell you, you are a so and so son and whatever, and I tell you the qualities, but at the end of the day, you would have to sit down with that information and see, oh, by the way, whatever she was talking about kind of makes sense. And with the information I'm given, I can make an informed decision. So yes, both yes and no, in that you can, you went through life having an understanding, a blueprint of yourself. It makes life so much easier as opposed to just navigating and floating through life without realizing who you are. Yes.
I asked that because I've mentioned this to you guys before, that I know from the Hindu culture, and I wanted to talk about African culture, whether astrology is Western only, or was it there in Africa, but at least I can quote what I know. I noticed that in Hindu guys, when they gave birth to a child, the astrology would be read immediately. And then they would tell the parents the trajectory, like you call it, the blueprint of the child.
Yes.
So they would show them certain propensities. It's not set in stone, because someone will ask about free will. It's not set in stone, but there are propensities. The
More
baby
likely
can
to.
go, more likely to go this direction, more likely to go this direction. So they will be advised.
It's okay.
So they would be advised early on, so they would know how to bring up the child.
Yes.
Therefore, this reduces significantly the amount of time wasted.
Yes.
And the amount of effort.
Yes.
And now I want to understand whether and another thing was also astrology for marriages, like even decision making, like they would check the dates.
Yes.
Depending on the placements, what is an auspicious date? Because if you just do things haphazardly, like starting a business on the wrong day or getting married on it has an influence, whether you like it or not. And I keep telling people, belief is neither here nor there. Like, I don't believe in planets.
Lack of belief doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Exactly. Gravity, you don't have to believe in gravity for it to occur. So maybe touch a bit on African. Did we have astrology in Africa before, so that we don't have to borrow these things from?
Yes, actually, astrology is global, and astrology is global in that there are various types. It just depends on how different communities practice it. Now, starting from the African perspective, Africa in itself had its own, we call it the African cosmological practices, in that because of, things like colonialism and slavery, a lot of the knowledge that was there was lost, but still exists until now. So what used to happen in the African perspective is that one particular example from the West African side, the Dogon tribe from Mali, they use the Sirius star system. You can look it up, to help them navigate their day-to-day living. That's one example. From the East African side, because that's where we are, things like agriculture, the seasons that we have right now, even the naming system, if you look at it from there, you would find a lot of astrological references that attribute to Africa still having its own type of astrology. It's not named African astrology, but the nuances are there. The examples are there. Touching on the global perspective, we have various examples. We have the Western, we have the Vedic astrology, we have the Chinese astrology, we have the Hellenistic astrology. And just to explain a bit, Western astrology is the one that we know the most. It is based on the 12th zodiac system of from Aries to Pisces, and the season starts from spring, that is Aries. The Vedic, or we call it the Jyotish astrology, is based on the Indian system. It comes from India, and it's more based on karma and fate.
Okay.
Yes. Hellenistic now borrows from the original type of astrology, which was, the original type of astrology that started from Mesopotamia, that spread across Europe. So the Greeks took the knowledge that came from Mesopotamia and changed it to be more Hellenistic. And that's from there, now it became more traditional. So from the Hellenistic, we spread more to the Western. And then there's an interloop of the both. Now, there's also the Chinese astrology, where we talk about the lunar year, or the lunar calendar year, that lasts one lunar year, of course, lasts 1 year, but there's a lunar cycle of 12 years. There's the year of the pig, year of
The goat.
the goat. I don't know if you know yours.
I think it's goat.
Mine, I think, is pig, but I have to check. But same
Snake.
concept, snake. I think we're in the year of the snake, but
I think so, yes.
Year of the
I
snake.
checked, yes.
And it has its own attributes. So across the world, you can see that there's some level of common knowledge. It's just different interpretations of that. And based on that now, our ancestors used to use this knowledge to navigate their lives, their societies, their civilizations. Yes.
That's so true. And since we spoke about that, can we talk about the misconceptions
It's okay.
that are there? Because there was this knowledge, I believe it was all together, and then it broke away. That's why you find it in Mesopotamia, in India, in here, everywhere. It's just the knowledge spread out. But with the knowledge, also the ignorance spread.
Yes.
So what are some of the misconceptions that have you encountered? Then I'll tell you mine.
Oh, the first one is, of course, hiyo ni mambo ya mashetani, and I'm like, I get where you're coming from, because as human beings, anything that is contrary to what you're comfortable with,
You demonize.
you demonize or you reject it. But astrology in itself has predated religion, has predated civilizations, and it has helped, our ancestors navigate their life, or their way of life, or their way of life, or their societies in a way that we can never understand. So astrology is not a form of worship. It is a symbolic language that explains more about the human experience. It is more of a self-awareness tool rather than a form of system of worship that tells you now, bow down to this and this person. Yes.
So you don't have to be religious or spiritual to know that there are cosmological influences in your life.
Yes.
Okay. Another misconception is like there's one.
Yeah.
Someone was asking in another Lynn Gugi's podcast. I forget her name. Mbabu. I hope she watches this. And she was saying something about how it's absurd or ridiculous that planets all the way out there can influence our lives all the way down here. So how would you answer to such a person?
Well, rightfully so. Planets influence us in one way or another, whether you believe or not. Because if you look at it from a perspective of, despite the distance, there are so many references that we can use from now the planets themselves that you can go and look up and see if it actually makes sense. And a good example, 2 examples I will use are the planet Pluto and the planet Saturn. So Pluto in itself is a generational planet. Most of these generations that you see, Gen X, millennials, boomers, Gen Zs, Gen Alphas are not just coincidental. And the time periods that are created within that are a reason give a reason as to why the planets influence us in general. So for example, let's take an example of, I believe you and I are millennials.
Yeah.
So we were born under Pluto in Scorpio. So a lot of millennials in general have gone through a lot of death, birth, restoration, transformation kind of experiences that we cannot explain.
Soul,
yes.
Just tragedy and pain and
tears. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you look at it from that perspective, even from the time we were born in the 80s, because Pluto in Scorpio generation starts from 1980, I would say 1981 to 1995. That cohort is what we call the millennials, the true millennials, if there's anything like that, but the millennials in general. And the experiences we had from the time we were born to the time we started growing up, we have had several deaths, births, and transformations that we can't explain. A good example is the rise of HIV and AIDS. We grew up at a time when, things were just chaotic. When it comes to AIDS, we would see loved ones, relatives dying from AIDS, or even people that dying from AIDS. There was the advent of wars at that time. I don't know how many wars were there in the 90s and even close
Cold
to the
War, Rwanda, genocide. I'm sure they are
the Gulf War.
Yeah.
The Gulf War, for example. The most famous one, the 9/11. And then on top of that, there was also the economic recession of 2008. So if you look at Pluto in Scorpio, for example, Scorpio in itself carries the essence of death, birth, and transformation.
Yes.
And that is what millennials inherently carry within themselves, even with the way they move about their lives, for example. Whether it is in terms of the self, your environment, or whatever, you're bound to experience several themes of the same, that is Pluto in Scorpio. A good example I would talk about also, current one, is the Gen Z generation. Pluto in Sagittarius. If you know any Sagittarius in your life, they are far thinking, they are philosophical, they go about life in a very carefree way. But at the same time, they will stand up for what they believe in. And that is the true essence of now what the Gen Z generation carries. And that's why you will find a good example is what we just experienced with now the protests, for example. If it were us, let's truth be told, we would double between, is this the right thing to do, or do we just keep quiet or go along the way? But because it's of the true essence of the Gen Zs to go after seeking the truth, and seeking the truth is seeking the truth in terms of now the corruption, the power plays, the whatever, and that is what they are doing. That is a good example of a Pluto in Sagittarius generation. Circling back to what we were saying, that is a good example of how a planet can influence the human experience. A whole generation experiencing certain themes around that. I can even go back to even our parents, our grandparents, Pluto in Leo, Pluto in Virgo. They had their own shared experiences that they themselves can sit down and say, this has happened to me, for example. Back to now an example of Saturn as a planet. Saturn has a very strong influence when it comes to us reaching a certain age, and probably we can speak about this later on. We talk about if you know anything about astrology, you know something called a Saturn return. And it's that age around 28, 29 and a half to around 30, 31, 32 that you start experiencing the true value or the true essence of adulting. Wacha hii ingine yenye unasema nimeanza kulipa KRA, sijui nimeanza kufanya nini. You actually experience certain themes around that time that truly transform your perspective about life. And once you turn that age of 30, 31, you look back at maybe your 20s or your earlier life, and you're like, hey, there's this period of time in my life that really hit me. And collectively, if you were to sit down, it may not have been the same themes or the same experiences, but truly it influences whatever we experience as human beings. And a more relatable example is like the moon, for example. I mean, the moon pulls waves and tides. The moon influences so many other things. If at all it didn't have any sort of influence. But I don't know if you've noticed during certain times when there's a full moon, for example, there's a way like even birds or living beings start behaving at a certain period of time.
I've been
Yes.
oblivious of that.
But that is a more close example that you can give of, just because, for example, it's not necessarily raining so much. I'm not referencing to the moon. It's still going to rain. Just because it doesn't affect your mood at that particular time, it's still affecting whatever you're going through. Yes. But for her, to each their own, but I get where she's coming from in that for her, there's no point that anything extra can be added to her experience. But from my perspective as an astrologer, I understand greatly the influence that it can have on the human experience. Otherwise, we would just be ingekuwa 3D.
I actually can't imagine a life without external influence.
Yes.
I really just don't trust the mind.
Yes.
My own mind. I can't even imagine having to deal with everyone else's mind. Like at sasa we are making our decisions by ourselves. It would be chaotic.
It would be very chaotic.
I've never thought about it like now, but I'm like, I'd rather I'm influenced by something that has a sort of a structure that I can now work on, because it's not a dead sentence, but at least there's some control.
Yeah.
And can you say more a bit about the influence of astrology in Kenya, in the Kenyan context? And I'm now wondering if is it sort of an inevitability if that's how it's working out? Like this generation, the generation we're in right now, it's sort of encoded in us that they will bring a revolution. It's a given.
Yes.
That we're in the midst of a revolution, and it's not even it's not conceptual. It's just what's happening.
Yes, in astrology we usually say there are no coincidences. There are no coincidences. There are synchronicities, and I can give reference to now the Gen Zs being Pluto in Sagittarius, to now the Mau Mau being Pluto in Gemini, and the reason why even like a year back. Okay, not even a year back, during the protest time, there were references to, like, they remind us so much of the Mau Mau. They remind us so much of, our ancestors who fought for, who are fighting for our rights at that time. It's no less coincidental because even them, the Mau Mau, for example, they had their own struggles, which included now fighting for our rights. Pluto in Gemini, they were eccentric. For example, they had dreads. They looked different from the atypical assimilated Africans who were, under the white masters. So for them, the energy that they embodied at that time helped them out. And it actually helped the next generation because after Pluto in Gemini, we have Pluto in Cancer, which is now the parents of the boomers, let me say. For them fighting for the rights of now the generations to come, enable now the generations to move forward. And what usually happens, you see now we are towards the tail end because we've now switched. We were now, our generations are well past Pluto in Sagittarius, Scorpio, whatever. We're now in Pluto in Aquarius. So with Pluto in Aquarius is now, the baby is now being born right now. Let's say for the next the next 22 years to come, 20 years to come, we'll have Pluto in Aquarius. And there are certain themes that they themselves will embody and will fight for as the things continue, as the themes continue. Another good example I can give is globally. We had a Pluto in Aquarius around the time America was having independence. That was 1776 to 1789. During that time, there were a lot of revolutions happening. There was the American Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, and the Irish Revolution. Pluto in Aquarius in itself has to be revolutionary. It is there to disrupt the normalcy of what you already know. Whether you like it or not, the status quo has to change. And whether it is most of the time, it is not even most of the time, the generation that is there will be the one to activate it. They will embody it and they will change it. And that's why you find even spaces like here, this is probably a career or a setup that wouldn't have existed probably 10 years ago.
For sure.
Because life was already pre-structured that, you go to school, you go to school, you work hard, you have a job, etc. Anything that was out of the ordinary was seen as, we want to waste time. You're just wasting your time and things are not supposed to be like that. But you're finding people disrupting the status quo through the job system. When we had the coronavirus, we were used to, if it's going to work, you have to clock in somewhere and say, umevaa suti, umeenda hapo. If it's like, saying that you're doing an actual job, you can't say I'm a creative or I'm an influencer or a content. What is content creation? You can't say something like that. But you find it that people are now are celebrating authenticity and eccentricity more because you are within that generation right now. We're in that Plutonian energy right now.
That's good to know. How about, first of all, it gives me hope that change is inevitable.
Yes.
That, I don't know why. I hope that will give someone hope, honestly.
But we for change to happen, we have to remember revolution has to be there. Whether painful or not.
Me, I'm ready for any change. Either way, I'm used to transitions.
Yes.
What is it? Phoenix rising from the ashes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm used to
the
the ashes.
Phoenix essence, yeah.
Yeah, so neither here nor there for me. But I'm happy that we are going through this. I don't even think it's just Kenya. I think it's everywhere.
And we can give so many examples, like the Arab Spring. For example, it was happening around the same time the Gen Z protests were happening. The second round of the Arab Spring. We can even give the example of the Israel-Gaza war, whereby you find now that it would have been atypical of the world to be just like, oh, they're just fighting, let them do their thing. But you see even the Westerners being like, of the world.
You're feeling the
free
ripple.
Gaza. Yeah. Free Gaza. You find people challenging the systems that are there. Like, how dare you speak to someone, not even older, but, someone of authority like that. Can give so many local examples, which we won't.
We will not.
Right now, yes.
And I also think it's also inclusive of even the revolution. Revolution can be the revolution can also be ideological.
Yes.
Like what's happening in America. So I'm just happy. So the other misconception has been relying on astrology vis-a-vis relying on God and just prayers. Why can't I just do that?
Astrology and religion don't cancel each other out. In fact, some people I've worked with or have come to me are still, faith-based Christians, but they still understand that beyond what they've been given as, religious teachings, there are things that are far much more beyond, human comprehension or human understanding that can have an influence over our lives. I feel like just from the first misconception we have, if at all it would be satanic, doesn't it mean that then we live in a satanic realm at the end of the day?
Probably do this place is really
yeah, it's joking. The ghetto, but yes. So I would say they don't cancel each other. They don't cancel each other out. Astrology is a prediction tool. It's not a prediction. It's a self-awareness tool. So aside from whatever it is that you do elsewhere, you can also use astrology for your self-awareness. And there's no.
But it's been it's their Bible quotations which I didn't in Deuteronomy. I think somewhere in the Old Testament where astrology has been cautioned against.
Yes, but at the same time in the New Testament, which we are told to follow, or those who follow Christianity do, the three wise men were the ones to find Jesus.
But they were not Christians.
Either way, they are not Christians, but at the same time, the use of astrology there goes to show that it has some level of significance, whether it was a part of the religious system or not, because you also have to understand the religious teachings in themselves are not necessarily straight from what was left here. They have changed over time in terms of translation, in terms of even the books that, were there. We only know of 66 books, but there are other several books that talk more about even spirituality in general, not even astrology, but spirituality in general that are not there. So again, with not going so much into religion, but it's more of picking and choosing what you want. Because if you were to take the whole meat, if you were to eat the whole meat, eat the whole meat. Take the, as they say, the Old and the New Testament and make sense of it rather than picking and choosing. Because you can give so many other examples within that.
Plus, in the other podcast that we did, which people have to watch, we were able to see how to merge and integrate religion and spirituality in a wholesome, healthy way.
Yes.
And yeah, people should watch that, I think, and use your intuition and your guidance.
Mhm.
And also just invoke the Holy Spirit to help you, because you'll know.
You will know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, so I think we're done with the business. Is it a scam? Some people call it a scam.
Well, it's not a scam if you are being given a chance to be self-aware and to have free will. No one is telling you, shikilia here and you have to do this. You're just being told, I'm guiding you. At the end of the day, the same way you would go to a therapist or a spiritual coach or any other person who you would want some level of guidance from, I just approach it from an astrological perspective because I see the significance. Then you can have the free will to do what it is you want to do.
Yeah. Plus, I think if you're called to it, just go. If you're not
Yes.
called to it, just stay away.
Yes.
How did your African upbringing get you here into astrology?
Well, it was quite interesting because for me, I grew up in a household that allowed me to read a lot, especially about the world, and because I was also interested. So I found myself being given books on history, on sociology, on all the sciences, let me just say, or in the human sciences or just knowledge in general,
Yes.
that allowed me to just be inquisitive. And of course, coming from a very structured kind of religion, I knew there was more to this than just what I was being told. So through that and also my undergraduate, I was able to now delve deeper into understanding the human mind. Because I think for me, once I started delving deeper into understanding what the human mind is, I found myself just exploring. And coincidental, I think, not even coincidental, spiritually, we say when you start aligning yourself with your true calling, inakuja tu, it slowly starts to come and you find yourself aligning yourself with it. So I think, and also just being inquisitive and being in my own world allowed me to just explore my mind and let me see what's in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then how for someone who would now be interested in understanding how it works, and you mentioned a bit about placements and birth chart.
Yes.
Can you explain to us how it works briefly?
Okay, so first thing, you come to me and we just have a conversation and you were like, okay, I've already explained to you what astrology is.
Yes.
The first thing would be, it's to generate your chart. So when you say generating your chart, it means that I need to know things like, of course, I know your name, but I also need to know things like your date of birth, where you were born, and at what time. And the significance of that is you and I can be twins, but even with twins or multiples, we are not born the same time. And the time placement also plays a huge role on what exactly can the themes of your life, let me just say, that you can experience versus myself. So once you have that, there are several sites we use that we use to generate the chart. Kitambo, they used to do it the manual way.
Imagine.
Which is kind of cool because they were damn accurate. But anyway,
and it's very mathematical.
Yeah, it's very mathematical. There are a lot of calculations that go into there. And there are a lot of these, of course, there's the psychology and there's also the interpretation and a lot of communication skills, because my interpretation of it, I can't use a lot of jargon to someone who's novice to it, or who's novice to the discipline, so that you can make sense of the information I'm giving you. So there's a lot of the knowledge part and also the technical part. Aside from that, start off with just 3 simple things. The first one will be, who are you? So that will be your sun. That's what people usually say is your zodiac, which I feel like, not even feel, zodiac is the pop name of your sun. In fact, if someone was to say things like, what is your star sign or what is your zodiac sign? I know you're a bit new to it, which is fine. But when someone says your sun, it means what is your core self? What is your ego? What is your identity? you will know once you generate your chart, look at your sun, and then you will also look at the moon. Once you know yourself, what are your emotional needs within there? How do you show up for yourself emotionally, or how would you want other people to show up for you emotionally? Then there's the rising. The rising is how you perceive the world, how you go about your life themes, and also how other people perceive you. Yes. The first time someone sees you as Miriam, what do they make of you? Or myself as Ruby? So once you have the three of them down, try to see where the themes of what they're explaining to you about and see if you resonate with them. Then from there, you can journal. Try to see the experiences from what they've explained there. Are they giving a true essence of who you are as a person in general? Like what you can applications or examples in general. Yes.
So they can these things help with business decisions, divorce?
Yes. Yes, it can, because I'll give a good example of he was called Andrew Carnegie. He was one of the most famous billionaires out there. There's a documentary that says Men Who Built America. It's those like age-old billionaires of late 1800s, early 1900s who had a business astrologer.
Yeah.
And a good example that he used, a good phrase that he usually says is, millionaires don't use astrology, but billionaires do. Sounds surface level, but if you know the right times for you to start some things, or for you to, to work on, if you know that you are more likely to make money based on certain placements, if you know that it would be easier for you to do this and this based on your astrological placements, you've won in life. So that is an example of now in business. Things like divorce, of course, when now it comes from the relationship perspective, whereby you will look at your chart, and another person I will also look at the chart of now your partner. And there's something called synastry. You will find, for example, you and I would get along romantic wise. But there's a reason why, aside from, your personality is not gelling. Maybe there's a way you like to be loved. Because when it comes to relationships, we look at the Venus, how you love and how you want to be loved, and the communication style. In fact, just in general, most relationships, people look at how do you love me, and how do we communicate. That aside from so many other things, you find that, if they're not gelling well, or if the synastry, when we call synastry, we're talking about alignment in astrology. If they're not aligned, then you would find it will be a very push and pull relationship. So when it comes to things like divorce, then of course you can put it in there that, you're more likely to thrive if you have a partner that has these certain placements for you.
Can you help people get partners this way?
Yes, you can, but at the same time it also si ati nitaleta nimwambia haya sasa nimepata huyu mwenye ako na hii like a ready order. But even you as an example, if you're just perambulating through life and you happen to have some level of understanding of especially yourself and what a certain partner would have, you've won.
You're making me feel like love now is, relationships are significantly not about love, but about compatibility.
Yes.
That breeds love.
Yes.
Because if we are compatible astrologically, then we might actually be able to love each other.
Yes.
Maybe that's how they used to do, and they used to do arranged marriages again in India.
Yes.
Cool. The other question will be about karma, but before then, do politicians use astrology as well?
Of course. Even NASA as an organization, they have in-house astrologers that help them with certain decision-making processes that, help them win. I mean, a good example would be like Trump. Trump in himself, with his chart, because I just glanced through it, when he actually won at that particular time, back in last year, certain placements work for him, whether he knew it or not. Outwardly, I don't know any politicians, but I'm for sure they talk amongst themselves. The well-known circles and the powerful circles, they have them within them. They have spiritual coaches. They have gurus. They have people they won't outwardly speak about, but they're there. Those that the ones that are usually open about them are celebrities. I know several celebrities. Actually, one said, "I usually don't go to I don't have a therapist. I have an astrologer," which to her makes more sense because I know the emotional part needs to be worked on, etc. But if I have a guide there that actually helps me evolve and become more self-aware, I'm more okay. So I would say the higher social circle has in general.
They just don't tell people.
They just don't tell.
Yeah, and I feel like they could be the ones who are spreading the rumors that it's demonic and satanic, so that not many people get up there with them.
Because in itself, it's a self-awareness tool. And if imagine as a society or as human beings we become self-aware.
You become powerful.
You become powerful.
Easily.
Yes.
Okay. So their question was karma. Can you say anything about karma?
Okay, so karma in general has various definitions depending on your spirituality. But in this context, karma in itself is the energies that you receive in general from the ones you give out. That's why they usually use that symbol of like a cyclic kind of, that sigil. There's a certain sigil they usually use of like goes around, comes out. If I find it, you can insert it. But essentially in astrology, karma represents the things that, for example, you have inherited from your past life. Because this is not the first rodeo. At this point,
I am honestly hoping anyone who is my follower is over this discussion of past lives. My God. Yes.
So karma represents the energies you've inherited from your past life. It can represent things that you probably didn't work on or you worked on, which is now represented in your North Node and your South Node, if you've ever heard of that. Karma can also represent, the things you are more likely to have to struggle with in this particular lifetime that can be seen in your actual chart. It can also represent, I think from what I explained before, the kind of payback you get from people wronging you or crossing you, because it's also there in astrology. And it's a form of, I would say a form of protection, but it's a form of like something that protects you, something that guides you. In as much as it's there to restrict you, but it's there to protect you. So in astrology, where we can see karma is in the planet Saturn. Saturn in itself, as we explained earlier on, is a planet of responsibility, responsibility, structure, stoicism, and it usually rules the sign Capricorn. If you know any Capricorn in your life, in your life, you know them to be very hardworking, loyal.
Extra hardworking.
Even the extra part, yes. You know them to be, very reliable, very structured, responsible, stoic, emotionally reserved people, loyal people. So them being ruled by the planet Saturn, traditionally, let me just digress. Before they discovered the 3 outer planets, that is Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, most of the signs used to share a planet. So Saturn in general rules Capricorn and Aquarius. So Capricorn and Aquarius more or less have the same energy, but now Aquarius usually is ruled by Uranus, the planet of revolution and innovation, hence the Pluto in Aquarius reference. So Saturn in general, where you have Saturn in your chart, so that is from house 1 to house 12, represents the themes or the areas in your life that you usually take very seriously, that you are probably very structured. For example, if you have Saturn in the first house, like myself, I take myself seriously. You know, I love structure. I love to do the things that are personal to me in a very, you have seen for yourself, in a very structured way, which works for me and essentially makes my life easier. Say, for example, someone crossed me, or, you know, we have a scuffle with someone, and or I've experienced some level of betrayal. Because because the first house represents the house of identity, the house of self, the house of, you know, ego and image. If someone was to cross me, or we have some level of issues, the kind of karma they would experience are the opposite of what that house represents, for example. So they might probably even have an identity crisis, not just necessarily. Yeah. They would feel like, okay, how do I explain it in a way that is not so detrimental?
I mean, they deserve it. I don't care. Identity crisis.
Yes. Wacha akue nayo kabisa. Uko like, oh my God, now what is life? Yes, for example. If you have, let's say, for example, yours is probably in the 7th house, yeah?
Wow. My relationships.
Your relationships, probably the person moving on, not moving on in the real sense of moving on, moving forward, they would have a really hard time having good connections, or they will struggle with the relationships they have, whether it's the relationship with themselves, their work relationships, romantic relationships, labda tu atakuwa napewa character development huku nje tu. And you're like, what's happening?
No,
and
I
it's
mean,
like,
if they're my ex, I'm just like, well.
I wish yake kwa hapo. Yeah.
No, I have very good exes.
Okay,
no, I'm just saying
this
is gonna resonate with most people who don't like their exes.
Yeah, they're like, yes, I hope.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you were to take any house, for example, give me an example. House number 1 to 12.
Career.
So the career is like the 10th house. A good example that I can give for application is the situation between Rihanna and Chris Brown. Rihanna is with her placements, she's an Aries rising. So it means her planets in itself, or her placements, are just exact as you would take up a birth chart. Because we said Aries is the first house. So clearly Capricorn will be in the 10th house. So because the 10th house rules, you know, career, legacy, you know, reputation, etc. When Rihanna and Chris Brown, for example, had that scuffle and he abused her, or whatever happened between the two of them, the kind of karma, I'm not saying Rihanna didn't get hers, because, you know, they know the story between themselves, but the more known example was Chris Brown. The kind of karma he got was a hit. He took a hit to his career, to his legacy. He was forever known, or still known, as a woman beater. So that is a good example.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Another example would be another house. Maybe you can speak about, maybe.
I think the 8th house is death.
So the eighth house represents inheritance, shared resources, debt, etc.
Okay,
so
let's talk about debt, because now most of us in debt.
I hope unapuliza, but anyway. So for example, same concept too. If it's in the 8th house, I would even argue, because 8th house is you know, that's where Scorpio sits naturally. So you can imagine it being there. Naturally, you having Saturn in the 8th house, life for you is quite, you know.
We really need to read my chart.
Yeah. Don't worry. Life there at that part, life in general, there are some things you do, and trust me, if you work on them, it becomes much.
There's working on them, because I'm starting to feel like it's a sentence. Honestly, I know you said it's not a sentence, but I'm like, Capricorn, Saturn, Scorpio, 8th house, debt, money, sijui relationships. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, but it's not a sentence. It's being self-aware, and part of self-awareness is not love and light. Is you being called out on your BS or lack thereof.
I must have been a bullshitter in my past lives, man, and it's okay.
I mean, no, not really. I saw your chart.
It better be good, because I'm just so damn tired, Ruby. You have no fucking idea. Anyway,
but that's why I'm here. But don't.
Yes, you're my astrologer now. Yeah. Thank you.
So, for example, if it's in the 8th house, of course, that scorpionic energy with the Saturnian energy, you can imagine the push and pull that comes with, wanting to be transformative, with whatever resources you have, for example, etc., but still being like, I know, tulisema hivyo, but you need to work smarter. Let me not say work harder. So if, for example, it's placed there and, you end up having an issue with someone, or just in general, you have an issue in general, the same themes, but in an opposite way, will work against that person. So, for example, because it represents, shared resources and inheritance and debt and, the inner depths of self, things like maybe debt, things like maybe alikuwa maybe apate inheritance. I'm just using the surface level interpretation of it, but the things that probably they would have gotten, because there's also good and bad karma, let's say, for example. So suppose you have a good experience with them, things would be more easier for them within that house. Yes.
Wow. Many, many thoughts about it. I guess I was going to think of forgiveness. I guess now this is where forgiveness is very crucial, because forgiveness cuts that tie of the karmic tie. Now I understand why reincarnation also happens.
Yes.
Because you guys keep just coming back like, ulinikosea, you are disinherited, now you're angry, regardless, your soul will know. So we have to come back so that we keep paying each other. So that's why forgiveness comes in. And also just doing good deeds to create good karma. And I also see how, especially relationships, for example, are tools for transformation.
Yes.
Because ultimately, if you go through whatever, you will have to transform.
Yes.
Yeah, so that makes sense. Okay, is there anything else you'd like to talk about? Or we can go to my chart.
I think just in general, I would like to say that, astrology is diverse. It's ever changing, not ever changing in that the content of it all is not there, but it's ever changing in that our understanding of it is now becoming more open. I would say it is not a form of religion. Please, guys. It is a self-awareness tool, the same way you would say, I will take a self-help book and I will, use the information that is there. Is the same way that astrology is. It predates a lot of things and has helped societies, our ancestors,
And
navigate
billionaires.
the world, discover
And billionaires.
and billionaires, make more money and become more capitalistic, But at the same time, it's there to help us be the best versions of ourselves. If at all you are more curious about it and you would like to explore it, I would encourage you to start small. Though it's an ever learning process. I'm also still it's a lifelong study. And you are encouraged just to explore and see. If it's yours, cool. If it's not,
respect.
Yeah.
Move to
Yes.
the next thing that might work for you.
Yes.
Would you teach this? And if people were to find you, where would they find you? Of course, we'll put the contacts, but still.
Yes. So I teach. Currently, I don't teach per se, but I offer guidance. I offer one-on-one birth chart readings on career, on any sort of aspect you would want me to explore on. I also do some level of coaching that comes with now, especially on the career or tighter dating coach, or yes, on that. And now I also write more on now the experiences on the application process or the application part of now astrology. So you can find me as Ruby the Astrologer in all platforms. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. And the contacts will also be there.
It will. If you don't know your birth time, are you destined to never? Because no one now takes birth time seriously.
Not really. The only difference is that you see the way I would say Saturn in the third house, and I'm sure that Saturn is in the third house.
Yes.
What it usually does in astrology, we take the time, the actual time of that day. So, for example, if you were to check, May 30th, 1990. We would just check the actual placements as from 12 p.m. So the placements themselves, they will set themselves as per 12 p.m. Because that is the highest point of the sun.
Mm.
Yeah, that's where the sun is the highest. So that is the placements that we will use.
Mm.
The only difference is I will not know your rising.
Mm.
So if I don't know your rising, which is in the first house, then every other thing moving from there would be more of what were the themes of that day.
Mm.
But I would encourage anyone, if you don't know your birth time, I don't know. I hear that you can actually access your medical. No, please don't quote me, but you can actually try and see if you can access your medical records if it's possible to access your medical records, because they usually keep them, and then
Or ask your mom if she's
or ask your mom,
around.
tata akisema,
your-
ni saa tisa, sijui
Yeah.
nini." Or ask your relative, because they are
Relatives.
more likely to know.
Mm.
That would make, yes.
If it's not for you, imagine it's okay. Like maybe you might not find. If it's meant for you, the information
Yes,
will come.
the information will come.
Yeah. So we can
Yes.
read my chart. I wanted to do this as an example a bit for people to see the practicality of it. So I asked her to kindly maybe read a bit of my chart. Tell me why my life is thriving.
So you'll allow me to refer
Sure,
as
sure.
we're speaking. So unataka nisome date yote ama just
Well, I've been getting calls from Kinshasa and I don't know where. I'm like, why are people
Really?
calling? Yeah, I don't want that.
Oh, it's okay, no problem.
Yeah, so I am starting to start
No, I
seeing why
understand by the
privacy is important.
privacy data privacy. It's okay.
Yeah.
So at most
bit.
we know you as Miriam Rose and you're a Kenyan. Hiyo iko sawa. And you're under that government, si ndio? Yes. Anyway, so what we'll do, we'll just do a bite-sized review. And what we'll tackle is more on as what we've said, the sun, the moon, the rising. We'll also look at what we're talking about, your past life and current life, or what you're supposed to aspire in this life. And we'll also look at where is now you as a sign or as a person, where is the energy most concentrated on? Yeah. And then we can close up on now where are some parts that usually cause some inner conflict within you. I think we can handle that.
That works.
Okay. So Miriam, do you want to tell people your sign, or should I tell them?
Oh, this is actually a question I had. I am Western, Scorpio, Gemini, and Capricorn. The main one is Scorpio. I have never known where to say sun, rising, or moon. But
So we usually say sun, moon, rising.
So sun is Scorpio, moon is, I think,
Capricorn.
and then rising is Gemini.
Yes.
And then in Vedic, I'm Taurus, Capricorn, and something else, which is completely not this one.
Okay.
So
that's where the types of astrology come in. What I have here is Western, which is it is easier to interpret and is most commonly used and easier to understand. Even the Vedic is accurate in the sense that now it not even attributes, it accommodates the fact that the celestial bodies have shifted a bit. So they have shifted to the next sign. But more or less, you can see the themes if you were to follow the Vedic or the Jyotish type of astrology.
Yeah.
But
I follow both and it makes sense. When I watch on YouTube astrology, I am able to reconcile the two.
Okay.
So
If I may add to that, we usually say that in astrology, you have the in astrology or in psychology rather, we have the id, ego, and superego. So your ego is this current sign you're in. The id is the sign before you, and what you're supposed to aspire to be the superego is now the sign after you. So because the Vedic accommodates now the fact that the bodies have moved, probably it's based on that.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. So do you mind telling people your
Scorpio, sun, moon, Capricorn.
And what do you know about Scorpios?
God.
Or what have people told you about when you tell someone is a Scorpio and they're like,
first of all, these days people think it's actually, oh gosh, now we're gonna go down a rabbit hole. But can people change? So initially, Scorpio, the embodiment of Scorpio used to be very interested in this occult. They say occult, but I think it's just spiritual stuff. They are very transformational, like going through that night of the soul. ashes,
Yes.
ups and downs, very many. They're very reclusive. They're very reclusive, yes. And now, and the way I am right now that you're talking to me, I'm very different. There are some things that have remained, like the spirituality, occult, curiosities, but I am more out there and more vibrant and less into the transformation because I've already gone through the transformation. So I'm wondering, does that ever change, or will I be Scorpio forever with the
Well-
innate things of Scorpio?
Well, the themes, you will be a Scorpio, but the themes about you just get better. Let me just say, you just get better in handling those transformations. Whether you see
Oh.
them as small or big,
Okay, that makes sense.
they're still there.
Mm.
It's like
an
learning to
evolved
drive.
Scorpio.
Yes, it's like learning to drive. Or riding a bike versus actually driving a race car. Those are two different experiences. It doesn't mean you're not driving, but you're still experiencing it, but in a different level and at a different expertise.
I really like that. That makes sense.
Okay.
100%.
So as a Scorpio, in general, from what you've said, Scorpios in general are known to be, I know you've been told this, but they're mysterious, they're very
And you're very
alluring,
passionate lovers.
passionate
Thanks.
lovers. Yeah, and that's why now the pop astrology is like, hey, I'm a Scorpio. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember
Nini
there's-
comes
there's
from
that.
yes.
Yeah.
Tengiapo because kuna censorship, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
So Scorpios are known to be let me use now the examples of what people know. They would say you're mysterious. They would say that you're alluring, transformative, and you have a deep sense of passion within the things you do and the people you know or the people you associate with. Yeah. And then another thing is that the aspect within yourself, you tend to have a vault of information that is not necessarily other people know about, but you're like, there's more to you than people know. That people will see the visage of yourself, but you are more or less, there are parts of Miriam that Miriam only knows.
Like an iceberg.
It's an iceberg.
Yeah.
It's like a vault of, okay, don't sound spooky, but a vault of mystery and secrecy and whatnot.
Yeah.
But still, there's a part of you that it will always remain hidden for your own sake as a Scorpio. Yes.
As you're speaking, I have other Scorpios in mind, and I can definitely also see what you're saying, and also them.
Okay. And another thing, 3 Scorpios in the same room, born different times, might behave slightly different because of other things that I will explain later if you have the time, or in a different
That
setup.
makes so much sense.
Okay. So, as we said before, every sign is ruled by a planet. And before that, before they discovered the 3 outer planets, that is nine Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, you used to share a ruling planet with Aries, which is Mars. So you being ruled by Mars, it means that you cut through most of the defenses of the human experience by piercing through it. Like you're able to purge out information or purge out experiences from people that other people are unable to.
Yeah.
Like a Scorpio would be like, I don't know how to explain, but I've seen it in action. I think I've seen it with one celebrity hosts. They have,
I guess I'm a host.
Oh yeah.
Even
Even yours, we are sorry.
It makes sense, and also even in coaching,
Yes,
it's a thing
you're able to like pull out information in a way that is not like invasive, but in a way that is the
or
true
also
essence of
just
yourself.
people telling me things, and I'm like, but why are you telling me?
Yeah, like
people will feel comfortable,
open enough. It's a scorpionic nature to be able to purge out that essence from people or that quality from people by either making them feel comfortable or from them just being
curious and inquisitive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So another thing is that your penetrative quality is what allows you to shine. Like penetrative quality in terms of you're able to pierce through life in general. Like, for example, people sitting down with you and telling them about their experiences without you knowing them. The death, birth, and transformation kind of thing. It's a penetrative or a piercing kind of way of going through life that would require someone with a lot of resilience and strength to do. That is Scorpionic to you. Okay. So, as we said in the birth chart before, when you know your rising, it makes it so easy. So with you, because you know your time, we were able to see where Scorpio is in your chart. So we have 1st to the 12th house. From the 1st to the 12th house, different themes, we had reached, for the 1st, we said 1st is the house of self, 2nd house of money, 3rd house of, siblings and communication, 4th house of family and ancestry. Yours is, you have Sun in the Scorpio in the 5th house. So the 5th house is the house of Leo. It's the house of creativity, passion, art, etc, etc. So you having Sun in the Scorpio in the 5th house, it means that, your energy is best expressed. Your transformativeness, your creativity is best expressed through, no, not your creativity, your Scorpionic nature or your transformative nature is best expressed in a creative way. And you're more likely to, the energy itself, if it's correctly worked on, you can be very transformative, whatever it is that you do in a creative perspective.
Okay.
So Sun in the 5th house, Scorpio Sun in the 5th house, your transformativeness, your way of doing things, your way of piercing through life, let me just use that word, is in the 5th house of creativity, of expression. So your expression and your creativity flourishes well with the Sun in Scorpio in the 5th house.
Which is what I'm doing now. And I think it answers the question I'd asked you of, if people don't know this information, I think life will also have a way of leading them there. I think life is fair enough to just lead you and place you where you're supposed to be. Okay.
So with the same energies, the core energies of you being a Sun in Scorpio, if you were to thrive the best, if you were to shine the best, it would be in the 5th house, because that's where it's placed. Your creative endeavors, your passionate endeavors, whatever it is you explore, that would be the best for you.
Okay.
Of which I have a reflective question for you. How have you felt like transformative in the endeavors that you have taken up so far? Like, have you felt transformative in the endeavors you have taken up?
I guess, especially in coaching, I guess that's where the most transformation. You mean my own transformation?
Whatever. Yes.
It's my transformation has been. I think my transformative process has happened mostly through coaching the last 7 years, and I think that's what has led me here. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes. And would you say you would take it as a passionate project? It doesn't have to be necessarily creative.
No,
But
imagine, no. I think, and now that you're saying it, I'm starting to think maybe it was a tool. It was a transformational tool, because it has been very instrumental in getting me here. The coaching journey, coaching others, being coached, all that. I don't necessarily think that is what I'm not passionate about that. I'm more passionate about speaking and sending out messages, sharing information. That is what that information that is going to change mindsets.
Which is also part of what I saw in your rising that I will explain later.
Okay.
So I think what you can try, if you want to explore, is like look at what passionate endeavors can lead you to more feeling more transformative or more within your core identity.
Does it have to be a career?
No, it doesn't have to be a
hobby.
career. It can be a hobby. It can be whatever. Just something that will enable you to be transformative in your own unique way.
This is it. I think this podcasting, much as it's still being
It's still
frowned
creative.
upon,
Yes.
But this is the one place I feel like I don't want to leave. It's so me. And yeah, it makes sense. And I think other than transforming me from the things I'm hearing from guests, it's also helping me live my purpose of sharing transformative information out there. So this would be it if I were to pick from the many things I've done in my life. It would be this podcasting. Maybe it will grow and become much, much more documentaries and everything. I have all this big vision about this, but this would be it.
So I think you're more or less on your own way have started to explore it in your own way, whether knowingly or unknowingly. And since you have such backup, I think you can continue with that space and
Yeah.
see where it takes you.
This would be it, yeah.
Okay.
100%.
So we said the sun is the ego, and then now we have the moon. Now the moon is your emotional well-being. And you said you have, no, not you said you had, you know you have a Capricorn moon. So I want to ask you, usually when you explore your emotions, do you look at them as emotions? Not today. Let me put them aside. Let me focus on the things that I want to.
I used to before 7 years ago, before I got into coaching and being deliberate about my personal growth. God, I see how inevitable my journey was. Like, I thought it was because I'm smart or whatever that I was like, let me develop myself. Kumbe it was encoded in me to look for transformation anyhow. So no, before is when I would suppress my emotions. Nowadays, I sit with them and feel them and let them go because I've learned that it's easier to grow. It's faster. It's a faster route to growth and evolution than to wait until, and you still have to process them. That makes no sense. So nowadays, I sit with my emotions, feel them, learn what I'm learning from them, and let them go and move on.
That is good, because it's good you've started the journey, because having a Capricorn moon in general, you tend to more or less put your emotions aside.
That's my mom. My mother is Capricorn sun.
Capricorn sun.
And that's 100%. Like, she doesn't do emotions very well.
So also with the moon itself, I'm not saying
maybe she's moon as well. I don't know.
It could be interesting, but there's also, again, we'll explore it further, but there are some things we also inherit from our parents.
Oh, okay.
So it probably explains why some certain placements you have. We can explore that further later.
Yeah, my mom is Capricorn and my dad is Pisces, and I have Pisces in, there's a fourth inakwanga C, MC.
Mid-heaven.
Yeah, it's Pisces and it's my dad.
So there's something called derivative astrology, which we'll explore later when we have
another session.
You can understand more on that. But anyway, back to the Capricorn moon. So typically, a Capricorn moon will tend to hold back their emotions because they feel a sense of responsibility not to be vulnerable around other people. They would be like, the emotions themselves, they need to be handled in a way that is, usishinde ukilialia hapo, like.
Yeah, that was me before, man.
Like, why are we, emotions, things like that. Like,
yeah.
Let's calm down. Like, it's not that serious. But in reality, it's because the placement of the moon in Capricorn, remember, we've talked so much about the Saturn ruling Capricorn, and responsibility. You feel responsible for your emotions in a way that you wouldn't want it to spew out to other people to make it look like you're being irresponsible with yourself.
And inconsiderate.
So you would, even if you're having like a turbulent time, you would more or less handle it on your own, but not necessarily handle it. You might, if you have not worked on it, you would shelve it at the end of the day. But if as you've said, you've worked on it and you've realized that there's a need for you to let your emotions out and let your emotional well-being out there, then you've done half the job. Because I was to ask you, like, I was waiting for you to tell me, like, hey, and yeah, Mimi, things with emotions are just like.
And I was like that.
Sorrows, prayers.
Especially growing up in a family where emotions were flaring up, which is more or less everyone. I really had learned, I think it was adaptive to do exactly what you described. Exactly what you described is how exactly I was. But now I've worked on it. I don't think I'm stuck there.
Okay, which is good, because you also having that Capricorn moon, people would rely on you so much to do the emotional.
Yes.
100%. The emotional labor for them, not realizing that you also need someone to be there for you. So again, you've done half the job, and I'd encourage you to continue doing that.
I'm so proud of myself.
Okay.
Wow.
Also, you remember when we were saying like Saturn in the 8th house, you have now a Capricorn moon in the 8th house, in the 8th house of Scorpio. So you have both the moon being in Scorpio, but also it being a Capricorn moon. Remember, we said the planet is the person. The house is how it reacts within the house that doesn't change. So you being a Capricorn moon in the 8th house, you have some level of emotional intensity that is quite hidden from other people. They might see you cool, calm, and collected, but inside they are like, bro, sis or grandma, you know,
That's true.
there's a level of emotional
That's true.
intensity that you harbor within you, but people don't see, and they're like, kanga too chill, but at the same time there's some, you know, that there's both the intensity and the stoicism that are
I can
playing.
literally feel something inside my body right now.
Uh-huh.
So that is there 100%. This I haven't worked on. I can tell you if it's something that needs to be worked on. Maybe it's not, but when you speak, I can literally feel it going up my.
Take your time, but
That's interesting. No.
Okay.
Just hit like. Wow, that is so true. It's like my intuition just saying yes. That's true.
Aside from now the intensity being hidden, you would also want to explore taboo topics.
That I like doing that.
You would have the propensity to maybe explore taboo
100%.
topics like
100. I mean,
yeah,
that is the foundation of this podcast.
Because the 8th house also represents taboo. So taboo topics will be like, curious, and then, like, let me see where it takes me. Let me see if,
I
curiosity
can't wait
kills the
to
cat.
go. I am the dead cat. I'm going all in.
You're out of the 9 lives.
Oh my, I love that so much. 100%.
And I think continue doing that. Not even I think, continue doing that, because aside from now you being able to understand your vulnerability or exploring your vulnerability, you're also allowed to see where the strength comes in with you having a Capricorn in the 8th house. Yes. And then aside from that, I think there's a sense of loyalty and depth within you that comes from the emotional well-being you'd want for yourself and what you'd want others to give you. Well, so for you to feel safe.
1,000. I swear. Interesting. How you also say it in a very easy to follow way. It makes sense.
Oh, thank you. Of which now takes me to the next question. We'll have like small questions in between. So would you say are there places or situations you felt like you've not been seen or heard?
Yeah. Yes.
Especially, in life in general.
Probably 90%. Yeah. Yes.
Probably now you understanding that there's a level of intensity and also a level of responsibility that comes with your moon or your emotional well-being. Probably you continue doing the groundwork of, the vulnerability would allow you to let other people come in.
Okay.
Would allow you to, even be more transformative in your sun, because all of these things are connected. Yes.
That's an area I'd like to explore a bit more.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just take your time. I know emotions are very murky waters, but whether it's baby steps or, things that require you to just move slowly by slowly, take your time.
Wow.
But as much as you know your strengths or your pain points, rather, you also have some level of strength within them. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
You can journal. Maybe a small work you can do is journal areas in your life that you probably were not seen or heard, and what would you want different about it. Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay. That's more work. God.
Hakuna pressure. Hata kama ni moja.
Hata si hivyo. I'm just like, wow, I thought I have just done this whole personal development journey and I'm ready to go and conquer the world. And then you're here telling me, oh, okay, no, we're in class 2.
Class 2, ujapita KCPE, ama ni CBC. What exams do they do?
Lord help me. Okay, cool.
Now we've tackled the sun, that is your ego or your core self, your identity. We've tackled your moon, that is your emotional well-being or your emotional needs. Now we're going to, how do people, when they meet Miriam for the first time, who do they think Miriam is?
Haki sijui mimi.
So you have a rising in Gemini. And if you know anything about Geminis are curious beings. Geminis are curious, communicative, playful, they're learners in general. So you having a Gemini rising means that you are a very curious individual.
Yeah.
You tend to see the outside world as a playbook of you just wanting to see what's out there. Yeah. And intellectually, again, you're curious and you look at situations and ideas as an opportunity for you to learn and an opportunity for you to, just let's see where the vibes take us in general. And then, okay, because it's placed in the signs of twins, Gemini, there's a duality to you, whereby you have the energy of being adaptable, communicative and engaging, but at the same time, you can also teach other people from the things that they do not know. Yes. And then you may be drawn to endeavors that are actually you may be drawn to endeavors that require the use of your communication skills. So you may be drawn to projects that allow you to use your communication skills. For example, the podcast, or anything that needs, some
I've been
level
in
of
debate as a trainer. My coaching was full of training, so a lot of talking and teaching. In the temple, I'm a teacher as well. Makes sense.
Things that allow you, or projects that allow you to learn or also to teach, as you've said,
100%. Yeah.
would be more what you gravitate more towards. Yeah. So typically that's what the rising means. And also it's tied to now the chart ruler, which we'll explain later on because of time. And I just want to ask you now, are there perceptions about yourself that, people have told you about yourself that you resonate with as a Gemini rising, having learned now more about what a Gemini rising is?
Teaching, like I'm a good teacher. Strategist, like thinking, like you said, taking opportunities to just combine issues and just come up with a solution. I do it so effortlessly. Even here, I think some people are like they enjoy this, the podcasting.
Yes.
Like that's nice.
Because you create a space of where you also want to learn from them.
Oh, I
And
see.
also even explore the taboo topics,
You see, that makes sense. Yeah, that one teaching, personable. Imagine, I guess my Gemini has just been the best experiences
The best
in my
experience.
life. Yeah.
Understandably so, because it's, it's light.
Yeah.
Si nzito sana, wacha
Who the hell
tuseme.
told me to pick Scorpio again? Did I choose this?
Well, yes.
Oh.
More or less the time, like, time for me to be born. And also tied to your parents, and also so many other things in general.
I bet. Okay,
So
cool.
yeah, so that's your big three: your sun, moon, and rising. And so far we've seen that you've already started your own homework in some areas of your life, in your emotional well-being, even in your sun, necessarily going through, taking up things or passions that you want or are aligned with whatever we've spoken about. So later on we can explore, the soul themes, which is now the south node and the north node. What did your past life learn or master? And what are you supposed to learn in this lifetime in general?
We can find that out from the chart.
Yes. The south node and the north node.
If not that one, we won't do it on camera. If people want to learn about themselves from her, we were doing this as a sneak peek into what she offers and how she offers it. And so this is your cue to book a session with her and learn about yourself. Gosh, this has been surprisingly, I didn't know what to expect, and I'm pleasantly surprised, and I feel so good.
Thank you as well. Let's explore more and see where it takes us.
Yeah.
And I welcome you. I welcome everyone to just explore themselves, see where it takes them. Let's be self-aware and more evolved.
Yeah, let's. Thank you so much, Ruby, for coming. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening in. Until next time, if you have any questions, just write them on the comment section. Please subscribe. I've become that person who says, please subscribe. Please subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Until then, goodbye. Bye.